that risk and that unknown is what's so fun. And that's what gives you the drive. Because if you're passionate about something, you have to go for it. I mean, it was scary, but I'm so glad I am where I am now doing it. This is in Chicago. So when I first started out, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to get started. I worked in food from 16 to 26. And then I worked in sports for a little bit, and then I sold real estate, but I wasn't loving what I was doing. Sports was awesome, but they just don't pay enough. And then real estate was good, but I wasn't passionate about it. So I talked to my mom and dad and my wife. You know, my wife all the time said, Cubby, and this is really important, you have to have someone that believes in you, because you have to have your significant other, your parents. If they don't believe in you, it's a lot easier when they do believe in you, because then they instill this faith in you that you can do whatever you want, and you can go for it, and you can be successful. So I go to Chicago. My older brother, Josh, I don't know if you guys have ever seen Josh James here in a lecture series. He's my older brother, and he's an entrepreneur. He owns the company Domo. I don't know if you guys have ever seen billboards for Domo. But I said, Josh, I'm at a crossroad, man. What do I do? What do I do next? I don't know what I want to do. I thought about being a ticket broker because I love sports. I thought about getting back into sports. I applied with the Jazz. And he's like, Cubby, why don't you worked at restaurants for a long time. Why don't you bring beef to Utah? So when we say beef, everyone knows that if you go to Philadelphia, you eat a Philly cheesesteak. But who's been to Chicago and eaten Italian beef? Oh, I have something for you for sure. Okay. There you are, man. Anyone else eaten Italian beef in Chicago? A couple there? Mom, you have? Okay, you two come get a hat or shirt after, okay? And if you want one. But it's a unique sandwich, and we grew up eating it, and we loved it, and so I wanted to bring that to Utah. So I started going to Chicago, and I meet with this franchise out there, and they're not really in the western states yet, except Scottsdale, Arizona. And but this is just I'll move to the next slide, but that's the owner of Mr. Beef. Mr. Beef is an icon in Chicago. It's the best Italian beef place in Chicago. It won Food Wars on the Travel Channel, and that's his son and me, and I worked there for a month. Them knowing that I was going to open an Italian beef store in Utah, and I paid them for a recipe, just for the Italian beef recipe, because it was the #1 in Chicago, so it's the #1 in the nation, so I wanted to be able to have that on my plate before I got going, because as much as I love food and worked in food for a long time, I was more on the server managerial side. I didn't have a great culinary background, but enough to know what was good and what was bad, at least I thought. So from Chicago, BYU 95, did sports. 4 years ago, I was seeing the crossroad where I didn't know what I wanted to do. My wife and I wrote down a list, like, okay, this is it. Like, we'll start all over. We took a big trip. We did a 6-month trip around the world. It was the most amazing thing you ever could do with your significant other. I mean, before we had kids. But now we're out of, like, we bled ourselves dry. Like, we saved money, did a big trip, came back. I'm like, okay, coach, FBI agent. My dad is a colonel in the Marines, so I always loved military, FBI, government agencies. A geography teacher. I always thought I wanted to be a coach and a teacher. Get back into sports or be a helicopter pilot. And because my dad's a pilot, so I always wanted to be a pilot, I thought, growing up. And but then I was talking to my brother, and he said, yeah, what do you bring beef? And I'm like, dude, I know restaurants. Of course I could do that. And like I said, I always had the confidence that I could do anything, because when your parents tell you that, every parent says you can do whatever you want, but my parents really, really believed it. And so I thought, okay, I guess I'll do whatever I want. Whenever I'm ready, I'll do it. And if I take that risk, if I fail, big deal. Then I'll go back to real estate or waiting tables to get through the hard times, like whatever we need to do. And then after being then I was in restaurants for 16 to 26. So it's been 8 years since I've been in restaurants. So I really needed to do some homework. And yes, that line is true. Fired. I said my temper, but that's not because of my temper. That's because maybe I wasn't the best employee sometimes. But I started Cubby's because I got fired from every restaurant I worked at. I mean, if you get fired from everywhere you work, the only way you can stay there is if you start your own. So, I mean, mine was like, because I didn't shave. I mean, you guys, I got to the honor code today. I'm a BYU student, but I mean, it's mid-back, you know, so it's like, it was hard for me to be a BYU, and now I have the long hair, but I can still hide it because I don't want to get nailed just to come to BYU. I don't know if they can still hit me up for the honor code, so. And it was this one time I took a packet of instant oatmeal at Sundance at 1 in the morning, and I was a manager and whatever. But 4 years at Sundance, but they were just kind of silly things. But it was like, and I loved the restaurant, and I loved food. So and after working for someone else for 18 years, like 16 to 34, that's what really I wanted to do. I'm like, why not just try to do my own thing and just go for it, and not having the fear. I mean, fear, of course, it's there, it's prevalent, but unless you go for it and try to conquer your fear, I mean, you'll never know what your boundaries are. I mean, and now, a year and a half ago, we started this, and now we know we're here for good, and we're making it. So it's a lot of fun.